So how do you hide assets? Hi, this is the business guy. What if I told you that everything you've worked so hard for, your home, your investments, your savings, could be taken away in an instant by a lawsuit, divorce, or other determined creditor? Sounds scary, right? But here's the good news. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to protect your assets and keep your hard-earned money safe. These strategies are so powerful that many attorneys won't even talk about them. So if you want to learn how to safeguard your financial future, stick around, and while you're at it, please subscribe if you haven't already so we can see each other again. Let's get started. We're going to talk about two things. First, hiding, and then protecting. As a background, I've been in the asset protection field since 1991, over 30 years now. Our company, Asset Protection Planner, started in 1906, and we currently have, I believe, over 120,000 clients in our database, full-time attorneys on staff ready to help you. Now, let's go ahead and talk about how to move your assets legally and keep them safe. Now, first and foremost, there are indeed ways to hide assets from creditors, lawsuits, divorce, and you can do it legally. But remember, timing is crucial. Take action early to avoid the suspicion of defrauding a creditor. It's best to act as soon as possible, even though there are ways to protect yourself after the fact. So first, let's explore your options for hiding your assets. For assets such as your home, you can hide your ownership using a land trust. Now, a trust has a settlor who sets up the trust. For your home, that would be you. There's also one or more beneficiaries who benefit from the trust. That can also be you. Finally, there's a trustee who manages the trust. And since the trustee is the only party that's in the public records, we typically set up a Wyoming LLC, and we add two services. That's nominee manager and the virtual office. The nominee manager is so your name doesn't appear in the public records. Then we have the virtual office in Wyoming with address and phone number so the LLC doesn't tie back to you. And whereas the land trust is good and might keep the casual contingency fee attorney away, it's not going to protect you in a divorce situation because I would guess your spouse already knows where you live. So pay attention below when we talk about protection. Now for cars, we use what is called a title holding trust to keep them out of your name. These documents keep your association with the items out of the public records. Detailed information about the various types of domestic trusts can be found on our website. Next, how do you keep your bank accounts private? What we typically do is we set up again a Wyoming LLC, plus nominee managers and virtual office like before. You open your bank account in the name of the LLC, so it's under the LLC's tax ID number and not your social security number, and it keeps your association with the bank account private. Okay, so what if you receive a check payable to you personally? How do you cash it? Well, here's another strategy. What we do here is we set up a Wyoming corporation, and we do that without a corporate ending. So we name the corporation your name. If your name is Robert Gunderson, we simply name the corporation Robert Gunderson. In Wyoming, you don't need to add Inc. or Corp to the end of a corporate name, so you can simply open a bank account in the name of the corporation. Then for checks made payable to you personally, you just deposit those checks in the corporation's name under its own tax ID number. Now, as we said, there are two primary approaches: hiding assets and protecting assets. Now, hiding can be effective in certain cases, but what is hidden can be found. True protection means that even if the assets are found, they remain safe and secure. And this is where asset protection comes in. Many people search the internet for ways to hide assets, which may have led you to this video, since that's a common search term. We used it, but our focus is on actual protection, because with actual protection, you can rent a billboard across from the office of opposing counsel and announce that you have your assets in a particular asset protection trust, and there's nothing they can do about it. So hiding is one thing, but real protection is where we want to be. So here's how to not only hide your assets, but protect your assets. Now, if you try to protect your assets within your own jurisdiction, like the U.S., and we do work all over the world, so it's not just U.S. based, a determined judge can often penetrate these protections. So for true protection, consider international asset protection strategies which place your assets beyond the reach of the local courts. And this can be done safely and securely. Now, did you know that the safest banks in the world are outside the U.S.? In fact, of the top 50 safest banks in the world, no major U.S. banks are listed. The U.S. banking industry and certain legal associations have planted fears about international banking. But the reality is very different. Watch our video on offshore banking for more insights. In fact, our international connections with some of the world's safest banks allow us to secure your assets when placed in the proper legal tools. You have online access, a debit card, the ability to make secure wire transfers and investments. You can do your stock trading online, but a bank account alone isn't enough because your account needs to be part of a proper legal structure in order to get full protection. Now, we often set up the legal tools in one jurisdiction because it's the strongest, and the bank accounts in another jurisdiction because they have the best services and are most secure. Offshore jurisdictions that offer the strongest asset protection trust laws are in jurisdictions such as the Cook Islands, Nevis, and Belize. Of all these choices, we most often use the Cook Islands because of its strong case law history and the fact that it's part of New Zealand, one of the most trusted jurisdictions in the world. Now, inside the Cook Islands Trust, we place an LLC. This will often be a Cook Islands LLC. You can be the initial manager of the LLC, and the LLC is what holds the bank account. So in my 30 years of experience, and the attorneys on staff, this has been the strongest form of asset protection in the world and one of the best ways to protect yourself from U.S. court judgments. Our international law firm, acting as the trust company, resides outside the U.S., meaning they are not subject to U.S. court orders. So when a U.S. court says, bring me the money, they can say, you don't have jurisdiction down here, and there's nothing they can do. So your money remains safe and secure inside the trust. In fact, the trustees in the Cook Islands are licensed, bonded, reputable, insured law firms with track records of safeguarding assets. In fact, we've set up more Cook Islands trusts than anybody in the world. So now we're talking about true protection, not just hiding something that can be found, but something that is protected. Even if it's found, it's still protected. So the law firm is the trustee of the trust. You're the initial manager of the LLC and the signatory of the bank account. Until it's time for our law firm in the Cook Islands to step in to protect you. Now, offshore jurisdictions continuously strengthen their asset protection laws, making them more and more reliable. Now, your judgment creditor might discover your offshore trust during a judgment debtor's exam, but that's okay. As long as it's set up properly, your assets remain out of reach. You can even publicize the assets and they still be safe, as we said. And again, for real estate, we use land trust to hide your ownership. For real estate investments, we place them in land trusts, and we have your LLC set up as the beneficiary of the land trust, so you have legal protection from lawsuits and asset protection if somebody sues you. Your personal residence goes into a land trust without an LLC due to different tax categories. We also use equity stripping strategies to protect real estate equity. For your business, we establish a corporation or LLC to own your business and separate your business and personal lives. These entities provide protection the sole proprietorships of partnerships do not offer. We can also set up a secondary LLC, typically again in Wyoming, and record equity stripping liens and UCC1 encumbrances against the business to pull out all the equity. Now, the main takeaway for all these strategies is to start the process before a lawsuit begins. Attempting to hide assets at the last minute can lead to legal scrutiny. Fraudulent conveyance is typically a civil matter, but it's better to address asset protection early. And we can protect assets after a lawsuit, but it's stronger if you do protect yourself beforehand. Now let's paint a scenario where Jonathan has $930,000 in assets. He places his home into a land trust, mortgages it, and puts the proceeds into a Cook Islands trust. His Mercedes goes into a title holding trust, and the liquid assets, stock market portfolio, investments, and the liquid assets, bank account, stock market investments also go into the Cook Islands Trust. So by acting early, Jonathan avoids potential lawsuits freezing his assets. Jonathan now has his assets in an offshore trust, and when a lawsuit hits, his domestic assets are all he risks losing. His offshore assets remain protected. Now, this scenario shows the importance of acting now rather than later, and we've protected the domestic assets by stripping the equity out of them. So this scenario shows the importance of acting now rather than later. For business owners, forming a corporation or LLC offers additional protection. While these entities don't protect against professional malpractice, they shield against other liabilities. The Cook Islands, for example, doesn't recognize foreign judgments. If a court tries to seize your assets, the trust company will protect you. And this is perfectly legal. And trustees manage your assets carefully. Every so often, I run into misinformation online about asset protection. In fact, mainly it's creditors publishing this to discourage you from protecting your assets. They prefer easy targets with unprotected assets, so don't fall prey to their tactics. You have to take charge, and you have to take charge of your asset protection. We're talking about legal asset protection, not hiding money from the IRS or anything illegal. We want you to pay your taxes, follow the law, and protect your assets from creditors who want to take what you've worked so hard to earn. So the key thing is start setting up asset protection trusts and entities now. Don't wait for a lawsuit to hit. Protect yourself and your family today. In fact, if you have questions, if you want to set up an asset protection plan, you can feel free to call 1-954-400-1050 or visit us for more free information at assetprotectionplanners.com. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with others. We'll see you next time. This is The Business Guy.